Number 7.8, consider adopting resolution number 23-04 to provide a city naming policy for the naming or renaming of a city street or other city-owned facility, park, or a major feature within a park or a facility by any person, group, business, or organization. Mr. Ross is going to walk us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yes, we've had a couple of inquiries in recent times on the subject, and City Manager felt that it was time to create a policy and a procedure to kind of help guide us through this and ultimately help council make decisions as we step through this procedure. So we've tried to outline parks possibilities, facility possibilities, street possibilities. Each would have a different path. A street would go through planning and zoning to the city council. A park would go through Parks Board on its way to the city council. Facilities would just be reviewed by staff and ultimately a recommendation to city council. So that's the summary of what's in here. Happy to talk about any of the specifics or consider any other alternatives that you all might like.
I might just add that this is simply something that we researched to see what other cities did. We settled on the city of Buda as kind of the role model. We like theirs the best. If there's something that gives you heartburn here, we're certainly interested in making it work for y'all, however you want it to work. At the end of the day, we want this to be a policy that the council's happy with, that we can move forward with confidence as various requests come in and we don't know how to handle them other than let them lie without an answered question. So it also would, if somebody wanted a plaque, we've already been doing some park benches in honor and through an informal process, but that would need to go through this process in the future. I know that we're doing a picket fence. The council blessed that with the names on the pickets. And so, there'll be other opportunities for different things in the future as fundraising activities, selling bricks at Memorial Park. We've facilitated some of that kind of thing. But in fact, the Jim Burke's Fireman's Park, Memorial Park, was donated under conditions of a deed. They donated the land, followed similar guidelines here without even having a policy. So I think it's just important that we ink it up, put some parameters on what this is. Somebody wants to put up a statue of somebody, it's got to go through the right committee to be reviewed, and we get the statue that we want, that's complimentary of the city and everybody's happy with it, or whatever, a plaque, a renaming of a street, building, facility, park, whatever you can imagine. We've had all kinds of requests for different things. So anyway, we feel pretty good about what we got as a general guideline, and if you adopt it and we move down the road and there's a quirk in it, we can bring back and amend it. We just need to probably get something started here. Thank you.
Comments?
Mayor,
Ms. Burwell.
I just want to say thank you for doing this to the staff, Michael and the staff. We have a lot of Granburyans who have been here most of, if not all of their lives, and I think that in the future we're probably going to see a lot of requests for this in addition to what we've already seen. So I appreciate putting this down on paper. I just have one quick question, and it's just regarding the number of 5,000 and below. What prompted that number to just go ahead and push that through on for the smaller items being named? There was I think I read in there that it wouldn't have to go to council, come to council if it were something that were under $5,000. I was just curious how that number was brought about.
Yeah, request to name individual features with a value of less than $5,000, such as park benches, fountains, furniture, etc., shall be referred to city staff and not require the approval of city council. So the thought was that a park bench could just be handled administratively. If council would rather everything come to you instead of that, we could certainly change that easily if that's your preference. Good question.
Mr. Wadley.
If an organization does a project like Memorial Lane, it had benches that people have their names on, does our policies supersede what they did? Or if they're doing a project, can they still do what they want? We're not going to step on their toes, you know what I'm saying?
If we discovered a conflict of some kind that wouldn't allow them to do something, I would anticipate they could continue doing what's already been approved and they've been doing. However, if we needed to, if something new was happening or if they wanted to expand something, we'd like to think, that was the purpose of this, that this would catch anything. I mean, large, small, whatever. And if it doesn't, as Chris said, we would just simply bring an amendment forward at the next council meeting to address that and make sure we adjusted it if necessary.
I guess my point was when people plan great things for our community, we certainly encourage that. And I don't want a policy that we come up with to, where people, somebody's going to say, well, that kind of messes up what we had in mind. I don't want us to do that.
Right.
And again, Memorial Lane was the one that really came to mind because there's several benches there that have names on them. And the folks at Memorial Lane, when they designed that, they decided what the contribution was to put your name on a bench or a tile or whatever, or the brick. And so, I don't want anything that we do to mess up what someone else wants to do.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So at the same time, they did come to the council and get approval with a plan of what they wanted to do, and y'all voted on it. So it's same thing. And somebody else wants to, say Rotary wants to do another park feature or something, we could run them through this, and it would ultimately come to the council for approval.
Sounds good.
It's meant to be a catch-all for anything like that, and certainly it's meant to help.
And the Optimus Park, they've donated several things that the Optimus Club has donated literally tens of thousands of dollars for playground equipment. That comes to the council.
Right.
Of course, the park's named after them there, that play park. So
Right.
that happened before we had a policy, but at least now we've got some idea who's going to pay for what and how it moves forward. And ultimately, the council makes the decision to accept a gift or not.
Right.
Or name recognition. And there's
Mayor?
plenty of folks that are deserving of name recognition that I've learned since I've been here. So
Right.
there may be a wave of these things coming. Who knows?
Ms. Burwell.
Thank you. Back to my original question on $5,000. To use Chris's word, I don't necessarily have heartburn over it, but I think for consistency's sake, maybe the entire process should just come to council, even through consent agenda, simply so that we have the opportunity to talk about it before it's actually put in place.
Sure.
That would be my only suggestion. The rest of it looks great.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Trish, I think that's a great idea. Maybe here's a consideration of if we're having other boards address, like Parks Board, have them address it, and maybe we don't have to have that come to council. That's just an idea. If it's park related, or if it's related to historical district, have the Historic Preservation Commission look at it. Maybe assign those to the different boards, and I don't know if we can give them the authority to do that. And anything that they can't figure out, it can come to City Council as a consent agenda. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm under the impression that it's all going to come to us anyway, ultimately. Is that correct? Did I interpret that correctly, Chris? Even if it goes through
No,
other...
the $5,000 threshold would make it where it's approved, recommended
By
for approval
staff.
by the particular respected board, and then staff would just move on it. So I got no problem changing that and making everything, really, it gives them some special recognition as well through that process, and might make them feel better about their donation. Remember the little girl that raised the money
Yes.
for the park? And, that was less than, it might have been $5,000, but it was so neat to have her come to the council meeting and make her, she was 5 years old, wasn't she? Made a little presentation to us and explained the money she'd raised for this playground equipment, and I think maybe we need to do away with that provision of less than 5,000.
And we can, if that's council's desire, of course, we can just, with your
Strike.
direction, modify it to meet the intent of the council, if you'd like to just add that to your,
You can approve it pending
that.
the change, and then we'll edit it before we execute it.
Okay. Is this a public hearing? Do we need to?
no, ma'am.
Okay. I would go ahead and make a motion to approve this with that one condition of removing the $5,000 mark.
And I will second.
And everyone's through discussing? Okay? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. I hear no nays. It's passed with the changes that, or the amendment that was recommended. Thank you. Thank you all.